Hi guys, Candia with the Age Journal. So I'm doing a little different of a tutorial this week. Instead of doing the flip through, I'm doing a little bit of a rewind on what we're going to do. I have a subscriber who was having a little bit of trouble with their signatures, and so I thought maybe more of you guys were having trouble as well. So I thought I would show you again in greater detail the signature part of putting together the journal. And remember, I had created two of the covers since I had made a mistake with making my cover or having my editing process not work for me. I had to create a second cover again. So I have this, and we're going to work on this cover to show you the signatures again. So I have the signatures all ready to go. So you just cut up paper, stack them together like we did in the first, or this video number 2, and get them all ready to go in your journal. Now, first part of getting your signatures ready to go in your journal is grabbing a piece of graph paper. And you want, there's some other tools, or you're going to need 3 binder clips. You're going to need a pokey tool. I prefer this one. It's from Lake City Crafts. I picked it up at Hobby Lobby in the paper quilling section. It's a little bit skinnier than the tool from Tim Holtz. As you can see, it's a little bit skinnier. So I prefer that, the skinnier version, but if what you have is this works just fine as well. You'll need thread, and again, I use upholstery thread, and I use Coats & Clark's, which I pick up at Joann's. It's 100% nylon. It has a nice tooth to it, so it sticks to each other, as you'll see when we're tying it. I picked these up at Walmart. They're the Dritz 25 craft needles, and in here they have a needle that is for binding signatures. It's the Dole type of a needle that that has the blunt edge for bookbinding that you would use in a bookbinding needle. So those are the things we're going to need for today's project. So what I do with this, I already have one done here, but I was going to show you again how I use this. So I take this and I line it up on one end of the spine, and then I just take my finger on the other end of the spine and find the groove and just use my fingernail to make a line. And then I take that to my paper trimmer and I cut off where I marked and toss the excess away. And then I go back to the spine and you'll see I have a perfectly piece of paper that fits perfectly in between the 2 edges of my spine, and then I want to fold over the lip right there to get the right length. And I take this back to my paper trimmer and I trim off again the spot I'm not going to use. Back and stuff over here. Okay, and then I take a pencil and I'm going to write T for the top, and I'm going to write F for front and B for back, because you want to keep track of what is the front of your journal and what's the back of your journal, the spine of your journal. So when you're making your, so this is the front, this is the back. So when you're doing your signatures, you work back to front, and you are going to poke your holes in your spine block and use those same holes from the back to the front in the signatures that you want in the back to be in the back and all the way to the front. You're going to use the same holes so that they line up in the holes that are in the spine block perfectly. So that way when they come out, they're going to come out as if they were meant for that hole, because they are going to be lined up. Even if they're wonky, they'll be lined up wonky together. So they'll be made for those holes that are there in the spine block. So what I do is now I count how many lines are in here. There was 45 lines. So I circled at 23. So there's 22 spaces on each side of the center line. And this one, I did 6 signatures. This was a little bit wider than the previous cardboard cereal box that we used. So we're going to do 6 signatures, but it wasn't the right width for doing them all even. So I did 1, 2, 3 on the right on the lines, and then I did 1, 2 on the lines, and then this one I put over in between the 2 lines that were left so that it would be spaced evenly between the lines there. I hope you guys can see that. So I just spaced it out evenly so that the signatures would all kind of have an even spacing. And when I go to poke my hole, I will poke it in the center of the circle there on the one line that's going across. Instead of having a line down and across to give me the center, I'll just poke it in the hole that's going across, and I'll eyeball the center there. So that's what you do with the grid paper, and we'll go ahead and start poking our holes. So we're going to take our clips and we're going to clip this in to the book just to make sure we got everything holding in good. And I'm going to take this one this time. So I felt like last time I got too big of holes in the back on the spine with using my Tim Holtz tool. That's why I prefer to use this one, because it's a little shorter. So I'm going to start here in the center and just poke away. I have my hands on the back open like this, supporting the spine, but keeping them open so I don't poke myself in the fingers. And I'm just going to wiggle it through and work my way across. And that is what you do with the spine. And I'm just lining them up in the corner of the lines. This gives me the perfect spot where the 2 lines meet to poke the holes. And then I'll do the bottom holes. And if they're off a little bit, that's okay. We're not going for perfection here. What we're doing is we're creating a template to take to our signatures, so that way our signatures are lined up evenly with what we got here on our signature block, our spine block, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure of the correct name for it. I've never taken a course myself. I'm self-taught by other YouTubers here on YouTube, And by playing around with it myself, coming up with my own way of doing things and what works for me. And this is how I've come to do what I do. And this is what I'm sharing with you, the way I've come to do things, the way that works best for me. Okay, so now we got all the holes poked. And so you're going to take this, and we're going to use this with our signatures. And we have our holes all poked. And they are pretty even. And so it will make a beautiful, when we have the signatures all tied in, it will be beautiful. But I like to, as we previously discovered in the last journal when I was doing this in the video too, is I like to cover these just to protect the spine and all the threads. I don't want them to get ripped accidentally by a ring or a pen, so I like to protect them by covering them. That's just me and my personal preference. So then we're going to go to our signatures, and I have the bottom one on top here, and we're going to work from the bottom forward. So we're going to take our paper and we're going to fold the last, on the back side, the last set of holes here. And we're going to take our set of signatures, our last set of signatures, and we're going to get it all centered the way we want it, so that way it goes in the book how we want them all lined up. And I use 2 clips to hold the signatures together. And then I take this and I set it in the center of the signature. Make sure you have it correct as far as the top goes. So this is on the top of our signatures, so we want the T to be on the top. And then you'll notice that this signature is a little bit shorter than the journal itself, because I don't want the signature sticking out of my journal. So this will be a little bit longer than my signature. So what I do is I just center it a little bit sticking out of each end, and then I attach it with another clip. To my signatures. And then I take my pokey tool, whichever type of tool you want to use, and I take it and center it in the center of my signature. And I have my hands held like this, and I have my, I clipped them together so they're all nice and tight. So she said she has trouble coming through at the spine back. She comes through on the center in here, and then she has trouble coming through on the center in here. So what I do is I put my awl right here. I have my fingers like this, and I take and I close my journal signature like this, and then I just twist until I go through, and it comes through in the center. So by closing it, it makes sure everything is tight and together and even. And we do it again, and we just twist and twist. And when I get up here, I take it and hold it like this, and I'm twisting like this, and it comes through right on the center of the signatures. So hopefully this makes sense the way I'm holding it. We'll do it again. So we're going to get our signature all situated to the way we want it. I want these things all centered here. And then I'm going to take the clips and I'm going to clip one on this end. And I'm going to take one on this end, and I'm holding the papers so that they're all in like this, as tight as they can be. I don't want them loose in the center. I want them tight so that they're all sticking together. And then sometimes I will even go back up at this top and tighten them up to make sure they're tight on both ends. And then we're going to refold this paper to the next line of holes. And we're going to take this and we're going to go back to the center of our signature and we're going to center it. And we're going to clip it in. And then we're going to take and we're going to hold our signatures like this with our thumb like this, creating a nice tight seal with the papers, all holding them together. So I'm holding like this, holding the papers together so that they're nice and tight, so there's no gap in between any of the layers of the papers. And then I'm going to poke my hole into the center of the hole right there, and then twist, 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 and then it comes out the other side right in the center of the signature. Same with this one, holding it tight and closed, twisting as I go, coming out right in the center of the signature. And then when I get over to this one, I'm going to hold it closed and twist, twist, twist. And this takes practice. I know I'm making it look easy. I myself have struggled in the past coming out in different spots, but as you get better with it with time it will get easier, and you'll get to the point where every time you come out in the center of the signature. So just keep practicing and it will get better. Trust me on that. I've had lots of time and practice with this, and to make it look as if it's super easy. I didn't always come out every time on the center of the signature. It's okay if you don't come out on the center of the signature. It's not the end of the world. It will be okay. So let's go to our book now, and we'll sew in our signatures. So I'll show you that again as well. So we have our thread, and like I showed you before, I leave it on the spool while I'm sewing it in as to waste less thread. I'm a very frugal crafter. I always start in the center. I slide my needle through and I pop it through the center hole in the spine and just thread it through. Then I go down to the bottom hole in the spine and thread it through, and then go over to my signature and catch that and thread that through there. Then we go up and go back through the center spine of the signature and the center of the spine. and to the top. Pull through and then go to the signature. Pull through there. Sometimes it takes a little bit of wiggling to get it to go through the signature. And then when I get there, let's turn this back around so we're right on correctly on the thread. And then I have a long piece of this, so I'm going to take it and make it smaller, and that will tighten up my spine as well. And I'm going to take my clips off. Make sure it's all nice and snug. Then I'm going to tie it and pull it taut in the center of the hole. And you'll see it's holding itself together because this thread just does that. I've tried other threads and they don't do it. So it's this Coats and Clark's that I find does it. Sometimes it will come loose, but you just rework with it until it holds itself, and it takes a little practice to work with it and to work with it on a spool to get used to doing that. But once you're used to doing it, it's fairly easy. So I just tie it 2 or 3 times again in a knot, and then I clip off the ends, and I'm left with just one strand of thread instead of 2. And you'll see that we're in here and we're not outside the journal. So we have our first signature in the spot in the journal, and we'll do this one more time just so you can see it again. So we're going to take our thread, put it through the needle, and undo it from the spool a little bit so we got plenty of room to work with. We're going to go through the center signature into the center hole of the spine. Down through the bottom, coming out on the inside, in through the signature, back through the middle, up through the top, through the top of the signature, and you can take the needle off. There we go. And let's take the clips off. And we're going to snug up the thread here, and then we're going to tie it And we're going to do it nice and snug. You don't want to pull too hard because this will, even though it is very strong thread, it will break if you do pull too hard. We're going to tie it in 2 or 3 knots, and then we'll trim it off. And I pulled my camera a little closer, so hopefully you guys can see this a little bit better. And again, we just have a little bit of waste. And that is our second set of second signature in. So then we can just work through the whole book, getting all our signatures in, and the holes all came out fairly even across, even though I had to make adjustments with the one hole to even it up in between the 2 holes. It still came out pretty even in between the holes. So that was this hole, and it came out fairly even. It's leaning a little bit towards this side, but that's okay. It's still close enough. And you won't be able to tell all that well once it's done that it was, that it's a little bit wider in between there. But the signatures are a little bit of room on top. They're a little bit closer to the edge at the bottom, but they're still not sticking out. So I think all in all, it's a good technique using the paper, the grid paper, to trying to put your signatures into the spine. And I hope you guys like it, and I hope that further explanation on how I poke my signatures and get it through to the outside centers of the signature helps. And I will be back again next week on Wednesday to do the flip through of the original journal that I finished. It looks super cute. I hope you guys are as excited to see it as I was to finish it. It turned out fabulous. I do put up sneak peeks on my Instagram channel, the Age Journal, so if you, and other projects that I'm working on there, so if you like to see what I'm doing on different projects and get sneak peeks, you can check me out on the Age Journal on Instagram. And if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends and subscribe to me. I hope to see you guys again real soon. I'll talk to you later. Bye.